Hey friends, we're Kenny and Elle, and we're the creators of Grow Children's Ministry Curriculum and Annual Strategy. And in this video, we're going to show you how to plan your entire year using the strategy and components of Grow.
Yay! Guys, if you are not using Grow curriculum, that is okay. We are going to tell you all of our secrets anyway, because we would love for you to steal our strategy and completely make it your own. And if you are using Grow, this video is going to help you see how you can take all of the things that you get in your curriculum downloads and put them onto an annual calendar. If you're a Grow subscriber, we even made this really easy for you by giving you a downloadable version of all of the cards that you see in this video, so you can print them and cut them out and be totally ready for your planning meeting. And we made you lots of other goodies to help you plan your year too, so make sure you grab all of those from your downloads if you haven't already.
So here's what we're going to do. In the next video, we're going to shift gears because the rest of the series has actually been designed with your whole team in mind. You can watch it on your own if you want, but we've actually designed this video so you can play it during a meeting with your whole team. And behind us, you can see a fully assembled Grow strategy board. This is an entire year of kids ministry planned out in 6 key areas. In just a second, we're going to show you a video where we take this entire board apart and rebuild it together step by step. We're going to walk through the 6 areas where we believe that you need a strategy this year, one at a time. This is what it is: your discipleship, your teaching, your weekly programming, your events, your volunteer investment, and your parent engagement.
Yes, and guys, if you are going to build a board of your own along with us, here is what you're going to need: a big blank board, a bunch of miniature index cards in at least 6 different colors, thumbtacks, markers, some of your favorite team members, some snacks, and a whole bunch of coffee.
Yes, and then you're done. And you're going to have a big, awesome, detailed visual representation of everything you're going to be doing this year in your ministry. It's going to help you stay on track. It's going to help keep your team in the loop. And bonus, it's definitely going to help you impress your boss.
Yay! And just a reminder, everything that you see on this board and that you're going to hear talked about in this video is available as a resource that you can customize and use in your ministry this year through Grow. That is every teaching series, every monthly theme, every event or activity or volunteer meeting, discussion, conversation, celebration. They are all included in Grow Children's Ministry Curriculum and Strategy. So if you are looking not just for the strategy, but for the resources to pull all of this off as well, then head to growcurriculum.org for some free samples and lots of information.
All right, I think we're ready to get started, so let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, I know meetings are usually pretty boring, but I am so excited for this one, and I hope you are too. That's because this isn't just another boring church meeting. In this meeting, you're actually going to build something, an entire year of kids ministry, and that's pretty exciting.
Yes, all right. Hopefully by now you've got a board set up with the months of the year pinned across the top of the board, and you have the rest of your supplies handy too. You're going to need index cards, markers, thumbtacks, coffee, snacks, and some friends to help you plan. If you've got all of these things handy, you're ready to get started. And we're going to start by planning an annual discipleship strategy.
Yeah, and guys, the reason that we want to start with discipleship is because we want spiritual growth to be the lens through which we see everything else that we are going to do in the coming year. So I know every church probably approaches discipleship and spiritual formation a little bit differently, but here's how we approach it. Feel free to steal this if it works for you. So we believe there are 4 spiritual habits that help all of us, kids included, grow closer to God. So here they are. Number 1, spend time with God through personal spiritual discipline. Number 2, spend time with others through Christ-like community with both believers and non-believers. Number 3, know and use your gifts by serving others according to your giftedness. And number 4, share your story by regularly engaging in conversations about who God is and what He's done for you.
All right, so these 4 habits aren't anything new. You've probably been talking about these countless ways by countless numbers of people in your church, and you've probably already been talking about them with your own unique language. So feel free to change the language to fit your context if you need to. The words are not the important part, but here's what is. If these 4 spiritual habits are the behaviors that help kids grow closer to God, then we need a plan in place to help kids engage in these 4 spiritual habits on a regular basis year after year.
Yeah, so here is how that looks in the Grow annual strategy. Since there are 4 of these spiritual habits, we break our year into 4 quarters and then assign one spiritual habit to each quarter and spend 3 months creating experiences and activities and tools around that one spiritual habit. And that habit, as you'll see, then becomes the lens through which we will view everything else that we put on this board that quarter. Because these habits are so significant, we don't want to just throw them onto the calendar randomly though. We want to think about the most strategic place for each of these habits to live on our calendars. So here is what we landed on.
All right, so if you're planning to kick Grow off for the very first time in, let's say, January, we recommend spending 1 month focusing on all 4 of these spiritual habits as a way to give kids, parents, and volunteers a look at where you're headed and what your big picture is. So we'll come back to what this launch month looks like in a little bit later. But Elle, what else do we got?
Yeah, well, Kenny, you're going to put this first
Yes.
card on the board. It's going to be orange. All discipleship stuff will be orange. Now, once that's up there, every spring, after you've kicked off the new calendar year and are about halfway through the new school year, you've probably had plenty of time to build trust with the kids in your ministry. So we think that is the perfect time to go deep by focusing on the spiritual habit of spending time with God. And this year, to help you do that, we've created a family Easter devotional for families to do together in preparation for the Easter season. So you'll see that card on the board takes up 3 months, a whole quarter. And then in the summer, we focus on the spiritual habit of sharing your story, because many churches are already thinking about and planning for foreign or local mission experiences, and also because it's really the best time for us to get our kids pumped up about the upcoming school year and all the ways that they can share the story of Jesus with others in the coming months. So this year in Grow, we are providing a set of conversation cards that can be used in small groups or at home to spark conversations about what kids are learning about God, who God is to them, and what God has done in their lives through Jesus.
Yes, all right, so we've got those 2 cards on the board, and then every fall we're going to focus on spending time with others, because thanks to the new school year, it's the time of year when kids are already thinking about the new friendships they're making and the people that they spend time with. They're moving into new schools, they're moving up a grade, they're joining new classes with new teams. There's so much changing in their lives every fall, so that's why it's the perfect opportunity to get them thinking about the spiritual habit of engaging in Christ-like community with others. This year in Grow Curriculum, we're providing a set of small group fun kits. Fun experiences in a box that your small group leaders can take and use during their small group time and throw a little party, do something memorable, and build relationships together. And if you don't do small groups, that's okay. You can use these kits for your entire group.
So while Kenny puts that on the board, we'll also talk about winter. Because finally, in the winter season, we focus on the habit of knowing and using your gifts, because the Christmas holidays are coming up, which means your community is filled with opportunities to serve and to give and to love others. So this year in Grow, we are providing a Giving War service project where kids compete to see which team can collect the most donations for your favorite charity or organization.
All right, so that's what the Grow discipleship strategy looks like. And if you're using Grow, we're giving you all of the resources you need to make all of these things happen. And if you're not using Grow, hopefully we've given you enough ideas that you can run with them when it comes to the spiritual growth and discipleship of your kids. Either way, now it's your job to take this strategy and these ideas and make them fit within your unique context and work out some of the details of what this might look like in your church. All right, you ready? Go. Hello and welcome back. Now that we have our discipleship cards on the board, it's time to move to our next layer of strategy, an annual teaching strategy. If you're using Grow Curriculum, you know that we color code all of our resources to help keep them straight. So discipleship is always orange, and our teaching strategy resources are always red. You can use whatever colors you want, of course, but if you want to match with us, red is the color you're going to want for this round.
Okay, guys, down to business. Each year, it is so important to plan ahead for the topics and the scripture that you plan to cover with your kids. I know it is easy to fall into the trap of just choosing random curriculum or spending our weekends Googling free kids ministry lessons with no prep required, but we think you can do a little bit better than that, and we're here to help you make that happen. Because here's the thing. When we fail to plan ahead with our teaching calendar, we run the risk of missing missing some really big important ideas, of teaching only the topics that personally interest us most, and ultimately failing to give our kids a full and holistic view of God. And that's a really big deal. So please plan ahead.
All right, so there are so many ways to approach a scope and sequence for kids, but here's how we do it. The Grow Scope and Sequence, we take kids through every major Bible story in 3 years. At the end of 3 years, we'll start over. We'll spend an equal amount of time in the Old Testament and New Testament, and the Old Testament is taught chronologically over the course of 3 years, while the New Testament is taught chronologically every year with different stories each year, beginning with Jesus' birth and ending with the early church. We will always switch from the Old Testament to the New Testament stories in December when the birth of Jesus happens, and switch back to the Old Testament in June, 6 months later. When 3 years are up, we'll start all over again in the same order.
Yeah, and guys, once you've identified the stories that you want to cover, place them on the calendar in order, but this is big. Don't forget to consider how you can strategically align your teaching calendar with the spiritual habits that you're focusing on each quarter. This is why we're putting everything on one board, so we can see how every aspect of our ministry strategies work together and hopefully don't work against each other.
All right, so here's a quick overview of this year's Grow teaching calendar and why we've placed them where we've placed them. If you're kicking things off in January, we recommend starting with Blast Off, our series that covers the 4 spiritual habits of our discipleship series. With Blast Off, you'll give kids a look at all 4 habits by looking at 4 stories from the Gospels and how these stories teach us the importance of each of these spiritual habits 1 week at a time. I'm going to throw this up on January.
Hooray! And guys, now you may have noticed that there are 13 months on the calendar behind us. That is because Blast Off is a completely free bonus month of curriculum that you get when you join Grow. So we'll give you 12 months of curriculum plus this free one-time series to help you launch well. So that's why we have 13 months on the board. Now in February, that's where we really kick things off with the Grow Scope and Sequence, now that you've got your launch month covered. So remember, the spring quarter is all about spending time with God, which is one of the reasons we like to make sure we're teaching about Jesus during that quarter, because Jesus, of course, is the one who makes it possible for us to be close to God and to spend time with him. So in February, we'll spend a month looking at the miracles of Jesus from the Gospels in a series that we're calling Unbelievable.
All right. And then in March, we'll look at some more key passages in the Gospels, as well as Acts and 1 Corinthians, as we talk to kids about worship. This series called You're Invited, and it's an invitation for kids to join the party that is worshiping, celebrating, and praising the God who loves them and invites us to be his friends.
Love it.
We're putting this in March.
Yes. Then in April, we will spend another month in the Gospels as we prepare for Easter in a series that we're calling Clue, Solving the Mystery of Easter. Then after that, we've got the month of May. May is all about the early church as we move into the book of Acts and hear the amazing but true stories of the apostles and the first churches in a series that we're calling True Story. And since May is always the end of our time in the New Testament, after that we're going to flip over to the Old Testament and stay there for the next 6 months. So in June, we'll start at the very beginning with creation and the fall in a series called In the Beginning. Then in July, we'll continue on in the Old Testament with the stories of Noah, the Tower of Babel, Abraham, and Lot. And since these stories from Genesis all have a lot to do with obeying God, even when God's command seemed a little bit risky, we're calling this series Double Dog Dare. And then in August, we'll do a series called We Are Family, which is all about the story of Abraham, his family, and why his family is so important to the story of God and to our stories too. So we'll cover Abraham and Sarah, Abraham and Isaac, Jacob and Esau, and Jacob wrestling with God. Then in September, we will wrap up the book of Genesis by looking at the story of Joseph, who, although he experienced great injustice in his life, still fought to do what was right for God and for others. So this series is called The Heart of a Hero. Then in October, that month is all about what happens after Joseph's story, which is the story of Israel becoming enslaved to Egypt and what God did to save them. So this series about Moses and the Exodus is called The Great Escape. Then in November, as we prepare for the holidays, we will do a series called Thanks, As our kids start to think about holiday feasts and presents and all the things that they want for Christmas, we will start to look at the book of Exodus and the Israelites' time in the desert, where they struggled to remain faithful to God despite everything amazing that he did for them. And then in December, we will switch back to the New Testament because, first of all, 6 months is up. And of course, Jesus is born. So in our series, Follow the Star, we will look at Jesus' birth story in the Gospels as we celebrate Christmas. And then finally, to round out the first full year of our scope and sequence, we will do another series in the Gospels. This one will be about Jesus' one-of-a-kind early life and ministry, and it's called Not Normal.
All right, so that's what our teaching strategy looks like for the entire year. But now it's your turn to make this strategy work for you. Look at your church calendar, figure out what stories and books of the Bible you want to teach and in what order and in which month. Find out if your church is doing any church-wide campaigns or teaching series that will affect your kids and adjust accordingly. Think about the rhythms of your kids and your community and make adjustments to fit your church's unique needs. And don't forget to compare what you're teaching to your discipleship strategy to see how you can line both of these strategies together so that they support and reinforce each other. Remember, this is all customizable, so take what works for you and adjust what doesn't. The point is this: you need a teaching strategy. And when you align your teaching strategy with your discipleship strategy, you'll be able to focus and reinforce these big ideas more effectively.
Yes, so guys, go ahead, build your board, make it your own, and then start dreaming about some of the specifics of what your teaching could look like this year. All right, have fun.
Do it. Okay, now for your next installment of strategy planning. In this session, we're talking about a strategy for your weekly program. Now, the last session was all about your teaching calendar, and that was pretty intense. So you'll be happy to know this next one is a little lighter.
Yay. Now, when you begin to develop your teaching strategy in more detail, you'll probably want to plan some interesting weekly programming elements like special decor or songs or activities or fun experiences to enhance that month's teaching. Now, this is so important for kids because if you really want your teaching to stick, having a really fun monthly theme that reinforces what you're teaching is really helpful. So for this round of planning, we are going to assign a monthly theme to each series, but they won't just be random themes like, I don't know, Pirates and Paul or Toy Story and the Exodus. They're going to be themes that directly complement what you're teaching.
All right, and so when we say themes, there's a lot that could include, like decor, graphics, music, limited edition characters, costumes, props, puppets, activities, playlists. The possibilities are pretty endless. And remember, if you're using Grow, we've thought through all of this for you. If you're not using Grow, that's still cool. Steal the ideas and make it happen on your own.
Yeah. So guys, here are the monthly themes that we are doing in Grow Curriculum and Strategy this year and how they connect to what we're teaching. Kenny is going to put them on the board again for us. So first of all, for the series Blast Off, since we're talking about how to launch your faith in Jesus to greater heights and you're really launching this curriculum for the first time, we'll be using the theme of rocket ships and outer space. So think space-themed activities and games, decor and graphics that use planets and stars and rocket ships, coloring pages, object lessons, all of that stuff will be outer space themed. Then when we talk about the unbelievable miracles of Jesus in the series that we're calling Unbelievable, our theme will be mythical creatures and fairy tales like unicorns and knights and dragons, because we're teaching kids that even though Jesus' miracles might sound like something from a story, we can believe even the most unbelievable of Jesus' miracles. Then in our series on worship called You're Invited, we are doing a party theme with balloons and streamers and confetti and invitations and party favors to remind kids that they are invited to worship God. And then when we do Clue, Solving the Mystery of Easter, we will do a fun Solve the Mystery theme with detectives and puzzles and all of that good stuff. When we talk about the incredible true story of the early church in our series called True Story, we'll do a theme that is all about explorers and adventurers, because that really is kind of what the apostles were like. In June, as we talk about the creation of the universe, our theme will be all about planet Earth and the amazing things that God has made. The sun, the stars, the animals, the fish, the trees, the flowers, and so much more. Then in July, when we talk about the stories of people like Noah and Abraham, people who God dared to trust him by giving them big, scary directions, we're doing a double dog dare theme with slime and obstacle courses and all sorts of crazy games. That one will be super, super fun. And since August is all about the family of Abraham, we're doing a theme that is all about our families and our family trees. Then in September, when we talk about how Joseph fought for justice, even when he was the victim of injustice, we'll do a comic book superhero theme for our series called The Heart of a Hero. And for the story of the Exodus, our series The Great Escape will be a fun escape room theme with lots of puzzles and lots of things that involve some teamwork. When we talk about God providing for the Israelites in the wilderness with manna and quail, our series called Thanks will be themed with lots of food and treats and taste tests and cooking competitions. And then our Christmas series, Follow the Star, will, of course, be Christmas themed, but with lots and lots and lots of stars and fun twinkly lights. And then finally, our series Not Normal, which is all about the not so normal life and ministry of Jesus, will have a wacky, backward, and weird monthly theme. So for your church and for your context, you might want to switch up a theme or two, even if you are using Grow, and that's totally cool with us. The point is, you need a strategy for your weekly programming. And a great way to make your weekly program more strategic is to give it a theme that complements your monthly teaching.
All right, so that is the idea. Now go draft up some monthly themes and stick them on the board. Once they're all up there, you might notice things like, I don't know if this theme will fit with our group, or let's swap it for something else, or every June our church does a big church-wide campaign, so let's change this theme to better connect with what our whole church is doing. Go ahead, do it. That is awesome.
Yeah, guys, whatever you decide to do for your kids when it comes to your weekly programming, here's the point. You can be a lot more effective with your teaching when you pair your teaching with a strategic monthly theme, and you can be a lot more efficient when you plan those themes in advance, like a whole year at a time, which is what we're doing right here. So guys, go for it, plan away, make it awesome.
Have fun. Welcome back. All right, hope you're feeling great about your planning board so far. We've already covered 3 areas that are all about your kids with our discipleship, teaching, and weekly programming strategies. But we've got one more strategy to talk about when it comes to kids, your event strategy.
Yeah, events are a pretty big deal for most kids ministries. They're a way to have fun, connect with families, get new people in the door, and create some excitement about your ministry and your church. Those things are all really important, but if we're honest, we probably know that we can sometimes overdo it with our events. Too many events. Too much money spent on events, too much emphasis put on our events, too much energy, too many resources, and too much manpower spent on pulling off events. Now, events matter, but we've really got to keep things in perspective. That's why we are fans of keeping your event strategy really simple, because you can make a bigger impact each year if you choose to do fewer events with more intentionality. So here's our recommendation for keeping your event strategy simple in your kids' ministry. Do one event each quarter. That's it. So here's how that looks on our calendar. In the spring, when you're focusing on the spiritual habit of spending time with God and preparing for the Easter season, it is a great time to host an Easter event for families. This year in Grow, we're giving you everything you need to plan a family Easter scavenger hunt for families in your church and in your community if you'd like. Then in the summer, remember that you've got a really busy summer ahead of you, and so do families. So host a really simple and fun event that gets families out of the house and just having a blast together. This year in Grow, we're giving you a fun glow night that you can use either for families in your church or as an outreach to your community. And since you're talking about sharing your story in the summer, the outreach opportunity idea could be a really great way to tie that into your discipleship strategy. In the fall, we suggest doing another fun family event, and again, maybe use it as an opportunity to let kids and families strategically connect with each other as well as families in your community. And remember, we're focusing on the spiritual habit of spending time with others during that quarter, so it's a great tie-in. In Grow this year, that event is a fun fall event called the Great Pumpkin Bash. In the winter, remember that families are probably pretty busy and a little short on cash leading up to the holidays, so do a simple, fun, and maybe even free event for families that allows them to make some holiday memories together. This year in Grow, we're doing an event called a Gingerbread Christmas with lots of gingerbread-themed activities, food, and experiences.
All right, so you know the drill at this point. Next up, take your event cards, throw them on the board in whatever way works best for your church context, and then spend some time talking about what each of these events might look like and what your goal is for each event. All right, have fun.
Okay, friends, you have now officially wrapped all of your planning that has to do directly with kids. But now we're going to move on to another group of people that you lead, your volunteer team. We are convinced that there are 7 ways to invest in your volunteers, and all 7 of them really need to be represented on your annual calendar. Now, maybe that sounds overwhelming at first, but it doesn't have to be. Promise.
Yes. All right. Now, just to warn you, there are going to be a lot of cards for this annual volunteer strategy because we believe if you want to be effective as kids pastors, we need to get really serious about investing in and empowering the volunteers that we lead. When we do that, we actually multiply our influence, increase the capacity of our ministry, and give kids a better shot at building a lifelong faith because all the research shows that young people need not just one kids pastor, but a community of adults who are all investing in them and in their faith. Plus, if you want volunteers to invest in kids, it's probably a good idea for you to invest in your volunteers first.
Yes. So guys, when planning your year of investment in volunteers, you're going to need to consider these 7 things: volunteer events, meetings, discussion groups, one-on-one conversations, tools, communication, and celebration. And again, we know that sounds like a lot, but here's the thing. While all 7 of these things really need to be built into your calendar, there are ways to build them in that aren't overwhelming. We get it because we've been pastors and actually developed this strategy while we were still pastors. We didn't have countless hours to spend leading volunteers, so we were really intentional about doing things that required the least amount of work for the biggest impact.
Yes, all right. So with that in mind, let's break down each of these 7 things and give you an idea of what's included in Grow for each of these areas. First, you have volunteer events. We have just one of these each year in August to kick off the school year. This volunteer kickoff event is designed to be your one major vision casting moment of the year. It includes inspiration, practical training, helpful tools, and relationship building to get your team off on the right foot. And with Grow, you already have everything you need to pull it off, so that's cool. And I'm going to put that on the calendar.
Yeah, put it on there in August. Now, next we have meetings. Meetings are any environment where you are training volunteers on a specific subject related to their specific needs as a volunteer. If you can say it in an email, just send an email. Don't call a meeting. Save your meetings for the really good stuff, the times when you want to teach and discuss and spend time with your team. Now, we wanted to get our team together in person every other month, so that's 6 times a year, but we already have an August get-together planned because of the kickoff event, so we'll count that as our first meeting. Then we'll skip September and put the next meeting in October. We'll skip November too, but then we've got December, and no one wants to have an informational meeting in December, so let's replace our meeting with a Christmas party. Then we'll add a meeting to February and to April, but June is the end of the school year, so instead of doing a formal meeting, let's do another party, an end of the year party. So, okay, that is 6 get-togethers with your team throughout the year, including your annual kickoff event and a couple of parties. That means you have 3 windows this year to train your team on something specific. So what do you want to train them on? Well, if you're using Grow, then you have access to tons of volunteer meetings. Some are general meetings, while others are specific to a certain type of volunteer, like your worship team or your small group leaders. Now, however you organize this is up to you, but here's the point. Plan to meet with your team throughout the year in a rhythm that works for you. And when you do, teach your volunteers something really helpful and really practical.
All right, next we have discussion groups. A discussion group is a type of volunteer get-together that honestly transformed our ministry's volunteer culture. In a volunteer discussion group, you flip traditional forms of volunteer training on their heads. Instead of training your volunteers like you're the expert, even though of course you are an expert, a discussion group is all about asking questions that get your volunteers to start sharing stories, talking to each other, and helping serve each other and solve each other's problems, really. These discussion groups are about spotlighting your volunteers as the experts and learning from them and with them for a change. So, how many of these groups do we do each year? That depends on how many volunteers you have. We recommend doing them at least once a year, but no more than 6 times during the year. When you do them, schedule them on a month when you don't already have an event meeting or party planned. So I'm going to put 6 of them on the calendar on the opposite months of our meeting schedule.
Yeah, and if you don't do 6, that's okay. Don't put 6 up. Now, next we've got one-on-one conversations with volunteers. These conversations are another way to connect with your volunteers, and we recommend putting these on your calendar for sure every single month, maybe even every single week. In these one-on-ones, the goal is to give feedback to your volunteers about how they're doing and to receive feedback from them about how your ministry is doing at equipping and supporting them. So Kenny's going to put those up on the board every single month. Next, we have one of my favorite ways ever to invest in volunteers, and those are your volunteer celebrations. We are big believers that what you celebrate in ministry gets repeated, and that honoring your volunteers for who they are is a huge part of creating a volunteer culture that makes volunteers actually want to serve with you. So each month, we recommend celebrating maybe a weird holiday with your volunteers in a way that appreciates them or makes a fun memory with them. So maybe that is a DIY ice cream sandwich bar on National Ice Cream Sandwich Day, or a room filled with balloons and encouraging notes on Balloons Around the World Day. Whatever it is, the point is that you take time each month to make your volunteers feel cared for. And sending weekly thank you notes and monthly birthday cards, that's a great idea too. Next, we've got tools. And by this, we mean any resource that you give your volunteers that makes their jobs easier. On the August calendar for Grow, we give volunteers tools like a volunteer handbook, volunteer business cards, a volunteer survey, volunteer goals, and volunteer t-shirts to get them ready for the year. Then we refresh some of those tools at the start of each semester in January and June. So Kenny's going to put some tools up on the board in those months as well. And last but not least, we give you communication, because if you're going to invest well in your volunteers, you need to communicate with them. So we recommend communicating with your team every single week, which is why Grow gives you all the emails for the entire year, already written and designed, 12 volunteer tip videos to help them with some small but really specific things, and a weekly volunteer huddle guide for those of you who get your volunteers together for a quick touch base before your weekly service. We give you those too. So those are going up on the board every single week. And then you're done. You've got a full year of volunteer strategy on the board, or at least we do. You are now free to copy as much of this calendar as you like and then change it around to fit your unique context. Honestly, this strategy revolutionized what we did for volunteers in our ministry, so we really hope that it has a similar effect for you, and we believe that it will. And remember, you're not just a pastor to kids, you're also a pastor to volunteers. So we believe this strategy is going to help you do that. So Kenny, as he finishes wrapping up everything on our board, we encourage you to do the same and have fun this year.
Oh my goodness, we are almost there. Can you believe it? You've already planned so much ministry for the next year, but now you've got one last area where you need to map out a strategy. The very last thing you need to strategize in your annual planning meeting is this thing we kids pastors always seem to save until last: how to engage parents.
Guys, when it comes to parents, let's be honest, we could all do a better job of engaging them. For some of us, maybe even just acknowledging their existence would be a good step forward. But no matter how new or how seasoned you are at engaging parents in your ministry, we hope this strategy we're about to unpack will give you a framework for your parent strategy that you can replicate and improve upon year after year. So here we go.
All right, we're convinced the key to engaging and investing parents effectively is to plan an annual strategy in 4 ways. You might recognize some of these languages and strategies from our volunteer strategy, and here they are: parent events, parent discussion groups, parent tools, and parent communication.
Let's start with events. Now, like we've already said, we recommend doing the fewest events you can manage for the biggest impact. Each year, we love the idea of doing 2 strategic events for parents and including those events each year in Grow. So in August, there is Move Up Day and Open House, an event designed to introduce new families to your ministry and expose them to your ministry philosophy and strategy. And then in October each year, we recommend doing a parent and small group leader breakfast, which is an event that connects the parents of your kids with the leaders of their kids and helps them connect over a common goal, which is influencing and caring for the kids that they both love. Now, we love doing this event in October each year because the school year is already in progress, small groups are probably somewhat settled and consistent, and there has been plenty of time for your small group leaders to meet and connect with parents before the event. So we love this event. At our church, we did it every single year, and within 30 minutes of our first attempt, we could already see our ministry culture shifting. It is an incredible event, and on top of these annual events, don't forget that you're already including parents in the quarterly events that you do for kids on the green cards, so be sure to think strategically about how to invest in parents in those environments as well.
All right, next we've got parent discussion groups. Kind of like we talked about with volunteer discussion groups, parent discussion groups are environments where you get to learn from and with real parents of kids. We recommend doing these in January and May or whenever your least busy months are for families. Once you've got your parents in the room, ask questions to tap into their expertise as parents of kids. What can you learn from them? What are their biggest struggles? And how can you better serve parents? I'm going to put these on the board.
Do it. Now, third, we've got parent tools. So throughout the year, there are so many helpful and practical tools that you could potentially give the parents of kids to help serve and equip them. But there are a few tools specifically that Grow provides. So in August, we recommend giving parents a parent handbook to better connect them with your ministry and help them understand your ministry's mission and strategy. Volunteer business cards with the names and photos and contact information of their kids' adult leaders on them, and an annual parent survey to help you learn about how to best serve and communicate with parents. Then we recommend providing those same tools again in October at your breakfast event and having extras on hand for whenever you need them too. So Kenny's going to put those cards up in August. And then finally, we have parent communication. Now, we recommend sending parents an email once every month with information about what's happening in your ministry and resources that will help serve and equip them as parents. So in Grow, we've actually written and designed all of those emails for you. Plus, we've created 12 parent tip videos so that you can send those to parents every single month, or maybe even reshoot them with members of your team if you'd like to. And finally, we give you monthly and weekly take-homes for your parents, depending on what rhythm works best for you and your church, which you can print, email, or both. So we're going to put parent emails and those parent tip videos up on the board every single month.
And there you have it. We are officially out of cards and this board is looking so beautiful. Hopefully yours is looking beautiful too. I can't see it from here, but I am sure it is. All right, your final assignment for the day is this. Plan out your annual parent strategy for the year, and of course, take a look at everything you've done and accomplished in this planning meeting. Is there anything you'd like to change or tweak now that everything is visible? Are there any pieces of your calendar you'd like to get feedback on before you finalize them? Is there anyone who couldn't make it to this meeting, but whose voice you'd really like to hear from before you finish your planning? If you'd answer yes to any of these questions, go do something about it. Don't let this become just another project left unfinished. Really do it. Make it awesome. We know that this is a lot to do and think about, but as the year goes on and your calendar fills up, you will be so happy that you finished this and got the right people in the room.
That's true. And guys, thank you for hanging out with us, but more importantly, thank you for all that you do for the kids in your ministry and for the adults who you lead and for the parents that you serve. We know that this kids ministry thing is usually a pretty thankless job, so if no one has told you this recently, thank you. Your ministry is so important, and we are so excited that you've taken the time to be so much more intentional and strategic and prepared for this upcoming year of ministry. You are seriously, amazing.
All right, have a great rest of your meeting and have a great year of ministry. You're amazing. See you later.
Bye, friends.